Thanks, Superintendent. I'm one of the parents of the Damascus High School. My son's on the JV team. First, I appreciate you stating what you did. They all feel to blame. It's the first time I've heard, just a accused set of people, which it was. It wasn't the whole team. I guess my question is, the principal, we haven't fully been addressed yet. We're kind of antsy. We understand there's an investigation. We'd like some kind of communication of what we can do. And number two, the second day, or the first day, the principal pulled in the boys and accused them all without the parents. And this is what they're feeling. And we're trying to find out, why isn't the principal, number one, why did she do that? And number two, why hasn't she addressed us, aside from the investigation? I'm sorry.
Certainly we will follow up on that question with the Damascus families. Thank you for the question.
Superintendent, when the incident is alleged to have occurred at Damascus, who is supposed to be supervising the children? And also, to date, has anyone other than the students who were arrested been disciplined?
When an event happens and it involves law enforcement and typically the state's attorney, then it's our responsibility to step back, because you can't have multiple investigations going on. As soon as the police wind up their investigation, we'll be asking those very questions about supervision. We have took some actions at this time with adults, but I'm not going to talk about those because those are personnel issues at this point. But we'll continue that process as the police step back and we're able to then go in and look at it from policies, procedures, and those things in terms of what happened. And certainly if there is found to be any culpability, we will respond appropriately.
Some adults have been disciplined, though.
There have been actions at this point. So,
NBC. Mr. Superintendent, some of the victims reportedly told police that there was a tradition or a ritual of brooming that they knew about, that students knew about. So my question is, why didn't coaches and supervisors know about, and have you conducted a system-wide? I'm not talking now about assigning blame for the specific incident in Damascus or Seneca Valley. Do you have a system-wide problem? Have you looked into that with hazing?
So, first of all, your question would assume that you think that that report is accurate. I don't know if that report is accurate about a tradition. So that's what I go back to social media justice and using a broad brush to paint a lot of kids with it based on rumors. And so I'm not going to do that. From a leaked police report. So let's just be very clear where it came from. And so let's wait until the police and the state's attorney do their work. We will simultaneously investigate that. I got some responses when I used the word hazing about this, and people said, don't you know it's sexual assault? The allegation is sexual assault resulting from hazing. Hazing has been a problem in our society for many, many years, decades, centuries of people doing things to one another. Is there a system-wide problem? We don't know the answer to that, but we swung into action immediately and said that we're going to meet with every team and every activity, every season and every year from now on. We're going to ask our coaches to sit down, our advisors, our chess club, our band advisor to sit down and have conversations with kids, make sure they know how to identify it, how to say something, how to identify if they are being victimized in any way or they think they might be, and how to stop their friends if they think their friends are going to do something that could move from verbal abuse to criminal activity. And as you and I know from reading the paper I'm 61, I've read a lot of newspapers, sometimes it results in death. There have been students who have died from hazing incidents in this country. But when we talk about that, yes, we have swung into action. The example I've used repeatedly and that we're using with our coaches is if you're in 3 sports a year in high school for 4 years, you're going to hear this information 12 times in a meaningful conversation with the adults who are responsible for that group of students. We're going to have a very systematic, methodical, and sustainable way of saying to kids, don't do this. You can really hurt someone, you can ruin your own life, and you can feel guilty about what you allowed to have happen to your friends because you didn't step up and say, stop. So absolutely, we've done that. It's already gone out to our coaches, and many of these meetings have already occurred. retrospectively for fall sports, and now they're being done prospectively for winter sports. They'll be done again in the spring, as well as Dr. Navarro, our Chief Academic Officer, is working with all the non-athletic activities to make sure this happens on a regular basis as part of teaching and learning. It's how we should be teaching our children and our adolescents to approach life. So,
might anybody be suspended or fired?
I don't know at this point. I'll know when our investigation is complete. That's when I'll know.
Do you have any indication of any other recent incident of hazing besides Damascus and Seneca Valley?
There was an incident that I'm aware of at Seneca Valley. Beyond that, those are the only ones I'm aware of in Montgomery County Public Schools recently.
In the last year?
Yes, those are the ones I'm aware of.
Superintendent, in the Seneca Valley incident, coaches were disciplined due to a lack of supervision. I understand that the Damascus investigation is ongoing, but why weren't any coaches suspended there for what was arguably an even more serious charge in the interim? Why were they allowed to continue supervising children?
Well, first of all, your question assumes they were. And secondly, I'm not going to respond to what action we took about them, but we didn't do anything at Seneca Valley until the police said they weren't going to accept the case. So that's a very important fact there about how it works. We do not get involved when the police are dealing with a case, because then, as we've all seen on TV shows, we get at cross purposes with one another, and it messes up the integrity of the investigation.
Were you concerned that these adults continue to supervise the children despite the serious nature of these allegations, which are just allegations at this point, but they're very serious ones?
So after the allegations, there were no more junior varsity football games. So your question, once again, assumes that the adults continue to supervise the students.
Did they not continue to supervise the students?
I'm answering your question right there. There were no more junior varsity games after that incident.
But it's part of the same football program, right?
There's a varsity and a junior varsity, and so we can talk about this later. I'm not going to become entangled in a conversation about a personnel matter, but it will all be known. It will all be known, but we have to wait and work through the process in the right way. And as the police have worked through their process, and as they'll be winding that process up in the coming days, then we may know more. At this point, we don't know any more than what we've known all along because we haven't had any information shared with us. What we do know is it's been a difficult time for students and staff and families and the Damascus community. And as I've said several times, I'll say again, what we ought to do when communities go through a difficult time is reach out to them with care and concern and to show our support for them. We've done this by providing employee assistance for staff, by providing psychologists and other sorts of support professionals for students and families, and we're going to keep doing that as needed. We also know here that this is an allegation of an event, and there's been a lot of social media justice about the students of Damascus and about what did and didn't happen. And frankly, I'll be blunt, I'm tired of social media justice, when people just declare that they know based on what they read on social media or a snippet of something. And so what I encourage everyone to remember is that the standard here is that students are accused of something. The police and the judicial system worked through that process. It was a small number of students. And that students were potentially or were reported that they were victimized. That's a tragedy and terrible, and they are dealing with that. And a lot of students of the 1,300 who go there weren't involved in this event. And so we need to be careful of what we say, what we do, what we post, how we think and act and behave as a community. Any of us who have experienced social media justice come at it from a very different perspective. And so I push on everyone in this community to act responsibly and not decide what happened or who did what or what community or what group of students are to blame for anything until they know better about what exactly happened. And my heart really goes out to all of the students involved in the junior varsity team, the varsity team, and every single student and community member at Damascus High School. As a former high school principal, it's a very, very hard thing to watch your students really feel real intense pain and difficulty when they very well may have had nothing to do with whatever is alleged. And so I really push on everyone to think about what they do and say in our community and in the press, by the way. We're all responsible, too, for what we do and say.